So in this video, I'm going to be talking over a match where I got 100 kills using the new S-TAC Aggressor sniper rifle in a match of domination in Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. I'm going to be slowing down some parts and talking about the strategy that I was using at different points, and hopefully you'll find bits and pieces that you'll be able to try out with your own playstyle and see if they work for you as well. Some of the stuff that we talk about will be somewhat universal and will be able to apply to any Call of Duty game, but towards the second half of the video we'll get into stuff that's very specific to boots on the ground Call of Duty, which hopefully will help prepare us for World War II this November. I'm gonna roll a quick intro and then we'll get into it. So this video is inspired by a video that I put out a couple years ago where I got 100 kills in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and I broke down and explained my playstyle there and the different strategies that went into it. I'll put the link in the top right corner of the screen right now. If you click that, it will open in a new tab and you can just mute it or you can pause it and you can check it out after this video. A lot of the things that I talk about there in Advanced Warfare are actually very transferable to World War II as well, except in this one I'm quickscoping and there'll be some stuff that's specific to boots on the ground COD. So let's slow-mo this first clip here and talk about the first concept that I want to bring up, and that is pre-aiming. So you'll notice when I kill this guy, my scope is only up for a split second, and my aiming was already done before my scope was up. So all I had to do is the split second my scope came up, I just pulled the trigger. Same thing with this guy here, even through smoke. It doesn't matter that I can't actually see him through my scope because I had already centered him pretty much to the middle of my screen, and any minute adjustments, it was just up to muscle memory because at that point I'd already calculated basically how I needed to aim. So then as soon as my scope came up, I was ready to take the shot immediately. So if you're really comfortable with the muscle memory and pre-aiming for COD, it is extremely apparent in your sniping. I think that's part of what makes it so fun. An example of that is if you've ever played the Snipers Only playlist in Modern Warfare Remastered. By the way, I'll have a video up soon on the Snipers Only playlist. I've been having a lot of fun with that. You'll notice that there's huge discrepancies in the scores in that playlist because some people who are they don't have the best gun skill with the sniper rifles yet, maybe they don't snipe that much, they just get absolutely destroyed because they can't pre-aim and because they don't have the muscle memory with the sniper rifles yet. They just haven't practiced enough yet, right? So that's one of the reasons why sniping is so fun, is because muscle memory and pre-aiming is so important, and it's important with other weapons too, and it's important in all other first-person shooters too. Overwatch, Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, Battlefield, everything like that. The skills all transfer over and they're all relevant. But sniping in any of these games, I would say it's maybe even a little bit more so. If you want to practice your gun skill, set up a private match against recruit level bots and just practice shooting them as fast as you can, getting used to the muscle memory, pre-aiming them, and making sure that you're spending as little time aiming down sights and scoping in as possible. That's something that I'd recommend anybody practice. Even I do that sometimes, especially on a new game. I spent like an hour every day practicing against bots in Counter-Strike Global Offensive as I was ranking up to Global Elite, because it's really just such a super effective way to quickly increase your skills at that game. Yeah, so that's the first tip. And before we move on, I just want to say that the muscle memory and the pre-aiming is significantly more beneficial in a boots on the ground Call of Duty game compared to one with the advanced movement and the jetpacks. Because when there's advanced movements, the maps are a lot more vertical, so there's windows way up higher than usual. People can also just blast off the ground at any moment and shoot right up into the air or go side to side and all this crazy stuff really quickly. When everybody's moving at a normal speed, like a normal running speed in Modern Warfare Remastered, or like how they're going to be moving in World War II, your pre-aiming is always going to be way more accurate because it's harder for the enemies to surprise you by their movement. And later on in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can surprise the enemies with your movement in a boots on the ground Call of Duty game. We're going to talk about something called crouch shotting and how to combine that with sprint strafing. I'm also going to be kind of using the environment to my advantage to change my elevation at the same time. There's a really great example later on in this video in the second half of the match where I'll kind of break that down for you guys and talk about going into a new boots on the ground COD. What can you do to still be hard to shoot. But before we get into that, I just want to talk a little bit about the way that I'm choosing my routes here. In a domination match, in my opinion, the best way to play is to capture 2 of the flags and then hold the enemy on only 1 flag. So in this case, we have the A and the B flag and they're stuck on the C flag. I would call that ideal. Some people like to triple cap. I think that it gets a little bit messy when you triple cap because then everything's flipping all over the place and it's hard to get any sort of control. This way we have a lot of control over what the enemies can and can't do. So what I tend to do is I run over to the side where the enemy's flag is, in this case the C flag, and I run to the side that they're not spawning, the side of the flag that they're not spawning. So most of the time that's going to be the right side of the map for me. I'm going to run to the right side of the C flag and then watch them in the buildings over to the left so that I can play my weapon to its strengths, since the sniper of course has an advantage in a long range gunfight situation. Sometimes I do go through the left side of the map through the buildings, but that's only really gonna be when I know the enemies are spawning outside closer to the middle of the C flag or over to the right of the C flag. Then I'll go into the building side and watch them out in the open from the buildings. And so the whole point of looking for opportunities where you can do this is not only just to be able to play your weapon to its strengths and stay in those longer range gunfights if you're using a sniper rifle, but also I'm hoping to get kills where the enemy didn't even have a chance to kill me. And these 3 next kills here are an example of kills where the enemy didn't have a chance to kill me. So one is this nade. I've thrown that a million times so I know where it's gonna land and it does pick up a kill there. Then I look to my left and I get 2 more kills. Unfortunately, somebody kills me here from my right. I almost got him, but yeah, he got me. So you'll notice that those 3 kills, so the nade and then the 2 guys towards the middle, they weren't even looking at me. They didn't have any chance to defend themselves, and that's what I'm trying to, those are the types of kills that I want to get. In this match I got 100 kills and somewhere in the range of 30 deaths. So if you're trying to see how many kills you can get in a match, which was basically what I was trying to do here, you're going to want to minimize the opportunities for the enemies to kill you. And I'm doing that even though I'm running around the map like crazy and quickscoping. I'm still thinking about how can I make myself the least likely to die. And sometimes I do run out into the middle of the map like I am here. It's just, I mean, it's part of the game, but I do try and get into as many gunfights as I can where the enemy has their back turned to me, or they have their side turned to me, or I'm able to throw a nade where I know they're going to be. You'll notice throughout this match I've been just throwing nades into spots where I knew the enemies would be. So that's something that you want to be constantly thinking about, especially in a new Call of Duty like Call of Duty World War II. That's like the first thing I do when I'm in a new Call of Duty game is figure out, okay, what are the flank routes, how can I get to the side of where the enemies are spawning, and how can I put myself in the most powerful position with the sniper rifle. So the reason why I'm talking about it now, even though I'm sure if you've played Modern Warfare Remastered, you've probably figured out the powerful positions on the map that you want to be in, but going into World War II, especially with the beta coming out just next month, I think, which hopefully I'll have a lot of coverage of. I'm planning to. I'm signed up for the beta and everything. But that's one of the first things I'm going to do as I'm playing. I'm going to figure out, okay, what routes am I going to run, where are they spawning, and where should I be standing relative to that. The next thing that I want to talk about here is actually a fantastic example of 3 different things at the same time that are occurring that you can apply to a specifically boots on the ground Call of Duty game to stay alive longer. So I'm going to put a clip into slow motion again here in a moment, and what we're going to be talking about is crouch shotting. So that's taking the shot and then crouching immediately after to change the size of your hitbox essentially, because when you crouch you turn a regular size player hitbox into like a half the size hitbox, so it's a lot, your target is a lot smaller when your enemy's trying to shoot you. And then we're going to talk about sprint strafing, so that's each time after I crouch I sprint strafe out of it, so that's pressing the sprint button and then strafing left or right to move unpredictably and also change the size of my hitbox repeatedly, going back to crouch to sprinting full size and then moving to the side and then crouching again. And we're also going to talk about using the environment to my advantage, and we're going to see that all right now in slow motion, and I'll break it down. So one thing I want you to pay attention to throughout this is my target prioritization. Every time there's an enemy muzzle flash, that person is the next to die, and that means that my target prioritization is working, because if they were able to shoot and show me their muzzle flash, they were a threat to me. And after each shot you can see I'm crouching and then sprint strafing left, taking the shot, crouching, sprint strafing right, and I'm using the environment to my advantage here because I'm standing on this pile of garbage to bring my elevation up and down while shooting, crouching, sprint strafing right, and it makes me extremely hard to shoot. So if you want, you can rewind that and check it out one more time. And the things that we're looking for again are crouch shotting, sprint strafing, using the environment to my advantage, and you can check out the prioritization of my targets there as well. So target prioritization is basically making sure that your focus is on the enemy that's the greatest threat to you at all times, so you're least likely to die if you're able to take them out. Crouch shotting, so again, that's just manipulating your hitbox to be smaller and then larger and then smaller and then larger, so it's hard for the enemy to accurately shoot you. Sprint strafing, so sprint strafing, it not only is part of the hitbox manipulation because the crouching is making your hitbox small and then the sprinting is making it big again because it forces you to stand up, but it's also changing the speed that you're moving significantly, because when you crouch it forces you to move slowly, and then when you sprint all of a sudden you get a burst of speed, and if you pull that over to the left or to the right, you're making it extremely hard for the enemy to hit you. And since I was doing all that on top of a tiny pile of garbage there that was able to help me change my elevation to go up and down at the same time as I was strafing left and right over it, it just made me basically impossible to kill, right? Like while I was doing that, the enemies, they were kind of like sitting ducks in comparison to me. So that's something that you shouldn't always do because it's not always the most efficient way to win a gunfight. In that case, I was doing it because I was outnumbered. There was like 5 guys in front of me or something, and because I had next to no cover, I had to rely on these other mechanics in the game to keep me alive so I could win the 1v5. And so I want to point out that some of this stuff is not even really that useful in a Call of Duty game that gives you jetpacks. So Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, usually the most effective way to make yourself a hard target in a gunfight is to do something with your jetpack, right? Just press the button to launch off the ground or dash in a certain direction or whatever, and it's pretty hard to shoot you, and that's about as good as it gets. But in a boots on the ground Call of Duty game, now I'm using crouch shotting, I'm using sprint strafing, I'm using the environment to change my elevation instead of just pressing the jetpack button, and it all came together there and I was able to use all those things at once. So I think that's one of the reasons why people who've been playing Call of Duty for a long time have the preference for a boots on the ground game, because there's a lot of boots on the ground movement mechanics that just aren't really that relevant in a jetpack Call of Duty game. So they haven't really been that relevant for the last 3 years, and that's why I thought it would be a good time to show this stuff to you guys, because when we are going back to World War II now and we're getting rid of the jetpacks for the first time in 3 years, which is insane that we've had 3 years of jetpacks in a row, these are some of the things that you want to remember, these movement mechanics, and try and incorporate them into your own playstyle when it's appropriate to do so. And keep in mind I'm saying when it's appropriate to do so because I'm sure that we've all seen an enemy player who thinks that every time they see you, they need to drop shot. And you can see that they're doing it with your teammates too. Just every time they see someone who they want to kill, they hit the floor and try and shoot them from the floor. It's ridiculous. It's not an effective way to play because first of all, it's going to take you half an hour to get from one side of the map to the other because you spend half the time on the ground. And second of all, you're going to run into situations where there's debris on the ground, like stuff in your way that obscures your view, and if you don't kill the enemy the first time, like on your first shot, then they can evade you, run around a corner, come back, and you're a sitting duck because you're sitting there on the floor. There's no surprises on where you're going to be. You move so slowly when you're drop shotting between shots. So it doesn't matter if you're drop shotting or if you're crouch shotting or if you're sprint strafing or whatever you're trying to do to make yourself a harder target. You need to use it in moderation only when it's appropriate to do so, because also with the crouch shot sprint strafing thing that I was showing you guys there, if I was doing that for every shot, it would slow me down so much that I wouldn't be able to play the game effectively. So the reason why I did it in that example was because it was a 1v5 situation, so I was outnumbered, and in any situation where you feel like you're at a disadvantage in the gunfight, that's when you want to pull out all the tricks to try and make sure that you stay alive. Otherwise, use it in moderation. And I'll let you guys know that there was actually a period of time where I had to switch off of the tactical button layout, which is the button layout that puts the crouch button on your thumbstick, and I put it back to the B button or the circle button, the default, because I was just crouching way too much and I had to get back to normal and kind of reset myself. But anyways, I would recommend adding this video to your favorites if you found it useful, because then you can come back to it once World War II is out and listen to some of the things that we talked about today again and work on applying them to your own playstyle for Call of Duty World War II, the next boots on the ground Call of Duty game. I have the link up on the screen now for my previous 100 kill gameplay. If you want more tips like we just talked about, that video linked on the screen now is full of them, so you can just click it and go check it out now. As you can see, there's the scoreboard, 100 kills. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.